stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Needles, can you take roll call for the record, please?
Sure thing. Commissioner Bacco?
Here.
Commissioner Godioso?
Here.
Commissioner Burkowski?
Here.
Commissioner Neary?
Here.
Lisa Catania? Michael Pierce?
Here.
Commissioner Whitaker? I believe she'll be joining us in a moment. And myself, George Needles, present.
Thank you. Tonight we have a presentation for potential Wawa liquor license. At this time, I'd like to have a representative from Wawa come up, introduce themselves, and present.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Freeman. I'm an attorney with Flaherty and O'Hara, and I represent Wawa Inc. I also have here with me this evening Mike Spiegel. If the board members or public have any questions that I'm unable to answer, hopefully he'll be able to step in and do so. And together we are here to request Upper Chichester Township to approve a resolution which would permit the intermunicipal transfer of a restaurant liquor license, which is currently located outside of the township, and your resolution approving it would effectively move it inside Upper Chichester Township for use by Wawa. And this liquor license would be used at a new store located at 6680 Route 309, Coopersburg, Pennsylvania. Wawa currently has 6 other stores in Pennsylvania that are operating liquor licenses, so they are selling beer and wine at 6 other locations. Entering into the alcohol industry. And although they only have 6 in Pennsylvania, they have nearly 100 stores in both Florida and Virginia that operate liquor licenses and sell alcohol from them. So they are experienced in the alcohol industry. And a couple of years ago, they decided to bring that experience to Pennsylvania to offer that same amenity to their loyal customers here in Pennsylvania. Okay, is that the, we'll just take a look at the resolution as well then to make sure that it's correct there.
Yeah, Route 3, Commissioner is correct. Route 309 is not the correct address.
Well, then I stand corrected. It's right there at that intersection. Okay, sure. So they 6 other locations that are open and operating. They have done so for a number of years now, and they have a perfect record. So that perfect record means they've not been cited by the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement for any violation of the liquor code, no sales to minors, no sales to intoxicated persons, and they certainly intend to keep that perfect record as they move into the other municipalities in Pennsylvania, specifically here for Upper Chichester. I do have one exhibit today for everyone to review. Applicant A1. It's a preliminary floor plan. What will look like inside.
Can it?
It's a preliminary floor plan. It's subject to change for different reasons. One being, if approved this evening, we will submit this to the Liquor Control Board, and they typically have inputs on what would be licensed versus unlicensed in the convenience store. So what you're looking at is an overall floor plan, and then there's a hatch line, which indicates what's not licensed, and everything else is what would be. Anything that's licensed is anywhere that Wawa can display and sell alcohol. A couple of features that I'd like to point out on the floor plan. There will be a seating area for 30 patrons. That's a liquor code requirement. That is also where customers will be able to dine in. Wawa has a vast menu. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, appetizers. So customers will now have a space to eat there. That is also the only area within the store that customers are permitted to consume alcohol. Legally, Wawa has to allow customers to do so. However, Wawa does put a limitation on that. So they put a limitation of 2 12-ounce beers or 2 8-ounce bottles of wine, which is just and they've been able to maintain that policy across their stores. They are finding that not many customers are actually consuming any alcohol within the Wawa, so it's a pretty easy policy to maintain. Wawa has a 100% In addition to that, all of the associates that man the registers that are on the licensed premises will go through the Responsible Alcohol Management Program. And that program teaches them how to properly card customers, how to spot a fake ID, how to use a card scanner transaction device, and how, more importantly, how to deny a transaction if it's called for. There will be security cameras within the Wawa that's going to cover the alcohol areas as well as the registers. So that's going to capture all the individuals that are there. They are limited as to how much they can sell in a single transaction. So a customer can buy 192 fluid ounces of beer to go, which is roughly 2 six-packs, and 3,000 milliliters of wine to go, which is roughly 4 standard bottles of wine. So that's all they're permitted to buy in one single transaction. If a customer does want to buy more than that, they do have to vacate the premises first and then come back and enter into a new sale. Hours of operation, the store will be 24/7. However, the sales for beer and wine will be Monday through Saturday from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. with wine sales ending at 11 p.m. Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. with wine sales ending at 11. I'd just like to say in closing that Wawa certainly understands the sensitive nature of selling alcohol. They've built up a reputation in each municipality that they serve as being a responsible operator, and they intend to bring that responsibility for an Upper Chichester town. Are asking you to approve a liquor license in order to. Any questions?
Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain any questions from the board. Commissioner Bacco?
Yeah, so it's just beer and wine, no hard liquor, right?
That's correct. No spirits.
Commissioner Burkowski?
This would be number 7 for Wawa.
Well, this would be number 7. If it got approved quickly.
If you got, that's not
It'll
right.
probably, I would say, it will probably be 10 or 11. We've got a couple slated to open later on this year with beer and wine.
Commissioner Neary? Okay.
Mr. President, just very briefly, just to satisfy the record, this matter has been advertised pursuant to the liquor code for the public hearing for the intermunicipal transfer that has been advertised on 2 separate occasions with the resolution related to the public hearing for comment tonight. In addition, I have reviewed the resolution, and it does appear that the correct address is on the resolution that's been presented to the board. I did take a look at that as we were sitting there going through that. You would also need to allow at this time any member of the public who wishes to comment either pro or con on this particular application prior to closing any record related to the hearing for the intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license.
Thank you. And that was our solicitor, Mr. Michael Pierce, that was speaking. At this time, I think George Needles would like to make a comment, or Township Manager.
It just should be noted that considering the resolution is not on the agenda for tonight on the 14th, discussion during the caucus meeting on the item is though.
At this time, are there any public comments? All right, let the record show there are no public comments. I believe we're slated to vote on this on the 25th. Is that correct? 25th of October?
Yeah, as of right now, it is on the agenda for the 25th.
Okay. So just let the representative of Wawa's know that would be the night that we would be voting on the issue. All right, there's no other, any questions or comments from anybody? Have a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
Second it.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to adjourn is carried. Thank you. We'll start our regular meeting at 7:30. Mr. Needles, can you take roll call for the record, please?
Commissioner Baco,
Here.
Commissioner Whitaker. I believe she'll be joining us via the virtual meeting.
I'm here.
Commissioner Gagliardo,
Here.
Commissioner Burkowski,
Here.
Commissioner Neary,
Here.
Lisa Catania, Mike Pierce,
Here.
and myself, George Needles, present.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to our caucus meeting, October 14th, 2021. Tonight, we have a presentation of the preliminary final land development application for proposed hotel at Maple Zone Batworks facility located at 4881 Chichester Avenue. With that said, I'd like to have Mr. Matt Hooton come up and present on behalf of the developer and owner.
Name is Matthew Hoopman. Is that on? Professional engineer with the firm of GD Hoopman and Son, and we were retained by Maple Zone Batworks, Steve Conrad, to prepare plans for a hotel at the Maple Zone site. As you all know, back in 2013, 2014, we presented an overall plan for the athletic fields at the Maple Zone site, which was approved. 3 multi-purpose athletic fields, 2 baseball fields, and 2 softball fields were built shortly thereafter and have been in operation. With that approved plan, there was also 3 pad sites. Commercial pad 1, which was toward the north side of Butler Farm Drive, was earmarked for an office building. Commercial pad number 2 was earmarked as a hotel site. That's on the south side of Butler Farm Drive. And then at the corner of Butler Farm Drive and Chichester Avenue, commercial pad 3 was earmarked for a restaurant. So the property owner has come under an agreement with a person to build the hotel, and that when the original Maple Zone plan was approved, there was notation on the plan that at any time, whether commercial pads 1, 2, or 3 were developed, that they would come back before the township with a land development application and require land development approval. And that's what the subject of tonight's presentation is. The hotel basically, as shown on the submitted plan, is in pretty close agreement with what was originally depicted on the original Maple Zone site. The overall site was 31.1 acres. Most of that is occupied by the athletic fields. The project area around the hotel site is 1.63 acres of land. What is proposed is a 3-story hotel, 72 rooms with a swimming pool out the rear and 81 parking spaces. We originally submitted this plan back in guess, May. Comments that came back were that we originally only had one access to Butler Farm Drive, and both the township professionals and fire marshal preferred two accesses. So we revised the plan to put a second access to Butler Farm Drive. There was also concern that there was not enough access toward the side and rear of the buildings for fire equipment access. So we extended the drives on either side of the building to wrap behind the building for the purposes of the fire marshal's intent. The plans were resubmitted, and we received the second round of review comments in August. They had to deal with the loading area, some comments around the traffic flow through the site, some stormwater management comments, and some general type comments. After that meeting, we then exchanged some revisions around the entry of the hotel, around the portico, to have better traffic flow and wider access lanes. That sketch, which was provided to the township's traffic consultant and to the township engineer, was generally approved. So we updated those plans and resubmitted. And I can tell you that based on the last review that we have, and that since we're in agreement with the geometry around the entrance, that we will comply with the remainder of the comments which are in the township professionals review. So that's a really quick overview. I'd be happy to entertain any questions, the commissioners.
Okay. At this time, we'll take questions from the board. Commissioner Joe Bacco.
I mean, as long as our engineer is satisfied, no, I don't have that. I mean, it's been a few years coming. I'm glad to say finally coming forth.
Commissioner Burkowski.
Yeah, Mr. Hoop, the 16-foot wide temporary use for the loading and unloading over there by the fire lane.
Yes.
Once that's not temporary, is that going to be asphalt, or is that going to be green for stormwater runoff into it, or is it that's just an extension for the fire lane?
No, that's going to be paved. We're using the word temporary is that is the access lane that the fire marshal desired to gain access to the southwest corner of the building. But it also is going to double as a loading unloading zone. So it may be occupied by a vehicle, but it will only be for a short time. That's why we use the word temporary, that there may be a truck there unloading, but that it's not allowed to stay there. It would have to move out so to keep that fire lane open for the majority of the time.
Okay.
I know Commissioner Whitaker's online. Do you have any questions, Commissioner Whitaker?
My only question I have is what pad is it? Is it pad number 1?
Pad number 2.
Pad 2.
Yes.
If you're going in, it's the second one on the right, not the first, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And Commissioner Neary.
Curious about the comment. My comment is concerning the parking. Because I know that you're 4 over the absolute minimum, but I know there's overflow parking already from baseball games. And I just am concerned with how much police activity we're going to end up with people fighting over parking spots because people who are supposedly parking in the back for baseball or football or soccer or whatever are going to be taking spots up in this hotel. How are you going to manage access to that hotel area, parking area?
I guess in so much as the hotel parking is in closer proximity to some of the athletic fields than the rear parking area. It's a good point. I mean, there'll certainly be signage. I know signage isn't going to keep everybody away. I guess it's going to be on the order of magnitude of problem. What the response from the owner would be. I would suspect if it's an occasional car, it's not going to create, a huge problem. If the spaces get used to the extent that the hotel patrons no longer have a place to park, they're going to have to police that in a more aggressive way. And quite frankly, I don't know what exactly the process would be to have those cars removed, but I'm sure there's a process that can be done without causing too much angst between the people.
The minute you start going people, there's going to be some angst.
But I think there's a way to set that up, Joe, where we're eliminated from it. The hotel would use a private tow company, and it's on them. You know what I mean?
I understand the way it's supposed to work, but I also know, you read stories. We're down at 69th Street was the prototypical one where a guy sat in the one lot, watched people park in the McDonald's lot, and within 5 minutes, the tow company was there. You'd end up with fist fights. I'm concerned because if there are fist fights and stuff, I'm sure the police are going to be called, and we're going to be devoting resources to it. I know it meets the minimum. I understand that, but I'm really, really concerned that they're going to have some major issues because I already know that they park out front now on these commercial paths. They have a huge event. What are they going to do when they develop those two paths? Because they already don't have enough parking, which is something I mentioned when we first did it. When who was the baseball player? Yeah,
Randazzo.
Randazzo.
When they do that, it's because they're using the front field, so they let them park up front. But they'll be forced to park down back now, I think. That's all.
Is there a particular chain hotel that's interested in coming in, or do we know any of those particulars yet?
It's like a sleep-in type hotel, and it might actually be sleep-in. I was told a few weeks ago, and quite frankly, it's
That's the name of the chain, Sleep In Hotel?
sleep-in or comfort-in. It'd be those
Okay.
types of facilities.
I'm sure they'll have some type of security system, security, just to make sure that the appropriate people are accommodating the facilities.
Yes.
Okay.
It's in the best interest of the owner that, to have, of course, have the parking available for the hotel patrons. So,
Yeah, well, I kind of envision is if people are coming out of town for sports events, they have a place to stay now also.
well, that's exactly the reason it's being constructed. Yes.
Mr. Pierce, would you like to add anything?
I have nothing to add. I've reviewed all the resolutions, the proposals, and everything seems, at least from a legal perspective, excuse me, acceptable to me. We will obviously need to do the various municipal agreements related to any approvals that are there, and I believe that that's part of the resolution. So other than that, I'm fine.
Thank you. Ms. Lisa Catania, Township Engineer.
The only thing that I did want to mention is Matt had sent over some red line plans last week, and we are looking at those, but I didn't put that date on the resolution because we had not done a full review of a full submission. So we are in process of many of the comments being taken care of.
That wouldn't affect us voting.
It
on
would
tonight,
not, no.
correct? Okay. Mr. Needles?
I have no comment.
Thank you. Anybody from the audience would like to make a comment on this particular subject? Record show there are no citizens' comments. Mr. Hoopman, thank you for coming and presenting. There'll be a motion later on tonight for approval or disapproval. You're more than welcome to hang out until then. If not, I'm sure we will get word back to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
It pleases the board, I may excuse myself to
Okay,
go home and grab some dinner.
no
Thank you.
problem. The game starts at 8. Thank you. All right, with that said, we'll move on to our regular meeting. I guess I need to make a motion to adjourn this? Or can we keep on going? All right, good. All righty. At this time, I'll take citizens' comments, other than what was presented tonight for the Maple Zone Bat Works. Just for the record, can you?
My name is Graham Montgomery, on the property owner at 2366 Thomas Avenue.
You can pull your mask down if you want to talk.
Good morning, good evening. My name is Jameer Montgomery, the property owner at 2366 Thomas Avenue. I was making a proposal for a stormwater waiver, stormwater management waiver. It was just pertaining to the infiltration system of the stormwater management system. It's the soil. We had done tests for the soil composition and filtration, and it was coming back zeros. So we couldn't put the system in that was with this filtration. So we asked for the waiver, but we were told to go back and do the test over again. So my question was to the township manager and the engineer, could we move on with the waiver or have a contingency to go back and do the test for cost and, just the burden of cost, getting the backhoes and the guys back out there just to do the test again. But we did do the test the first time with the engineer and the soil was coming back with zeros because of the composition of clay, they said, and the water, not percolating or high water content.
I don't know if we're going to have an answer to these, but on the matter, I know this is the Commissioner Whitaker's ward. So I believe her and Lisa Catania are going to have a discussion about it. Our township engineer is more than welcome to make a comment at this time if she'd like to bring the board up to speed.
Just so the board's aware, it's been policy for many years for when there is a stormwater management facility that someone from our office, the SEO, actually goes out and witness the tests. The reason for that is typically they have a specific area that they want to utilize for their stormwater management system. We ask them, there are different tests that can be made, so we want to make sure that they're doing the most accurate test. Typically, Mike Sioko from my office is the one that goes out. If we find a situation like Mr. Montgomery's, we'll ask them either to dig deeper. There's a lot of times that there may be a clay layer, and then underneath you have good soils, or again, that you move it over to another area that isn't going to affect where the house or whatever structure is going to be. And typically they'll find something. Every once in a while you find that they've exhausted any kind of alternatives and there is a justification for a waiver of infiltration. In this case, they did the testing and then came to saying that there was a zero volume. So Mr. Daggett, who is the consultant, had sent things over to Barb. Barb forwarded it to me. And I said, we should have witnessed the test. They actually had the test scheduled, a retest scheduled in different locations, but it was canceled the day of the test. So just so everyone's aware of where we are, the reason for the infiltration waiver or the justification is that we're under an MS4 permit. And under that permit, when we do our PRP, the plan that we have to do to remediate the suspended solids and other contaminants in the water supply, we take any BMPs, which this would be, and we can remove those from the baseline. So the township is not responsible for those particular areas. So in other words, it's reducing the amount of new structures that we as a township need to put in, therefore reducing the costs to the taxpayers. So unless there's a justification for it, we don't typically recommend a waiver of the statement. I'll have a conversation with Ms. Whitaker. I have not talked to Commissioner Whitaker about it, but I know that we've had conversation with Mr. Daggett. We had conversation with Mr. Fiorelli, who actually was a employee of Catania Engineering back when I was in college. So I know Dave. He had contacted me. We've at least explained our position to them. I guess it's up to the board whether you would actually grant a waiver.
Just two comments. Was the applicant aware of the request for Catania Engineering to be on site? And two, the company that did it, are they a reputable company that you have worked with in the past? It sounds like it is, that you would trust them.
I don't know this group.
Okay,
I do, as I said, he had the gentleman that was our former employee back in the 80s. I knew him. He's a consultant for them. He works part-time for them. So I guess when he heard it was Catania Engineering, he thought he'd reach out. It's about all I can tell you at this point.
what about my first question? Was the applicant aware that you made the request to be on site?
I don't know that.
All right, well. Yeah, Commissioner Whitaker is the commissioner within that ward, so I think it'd be a good idea for them to discuss about the possible waiver, or if not, or if you need to go through this process again. If you allow them time to talk, and then we can get back to you hopefully as soon as possible. And then, like I said tonight, I don't think we're going to make a decision on whether a waiver would be granted until the commissioner and the engineer talks. All righty. Yes. I'm sorry, but that's the best I can do for you at this particular time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jermaine.
All right.
You want to say something else before we leave? Before I move on?
I have one question.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep. All right. There's other citizens' comments. We'll move on to our reports. We'll start off with our professionals, our township engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. You do have a copy of my report. We have quite a few things for the agenda. First is Wawa is moving forward. As you can see, we're moving closer to Gibbons Park being completed. They're asking about, they actually are looking at sodding Gibbons Park in the very near future. It appears, in speaking to Mr. Seidel this afternoon, they've been in contact with him concerning the lettering that's on the wall. They've not completed any changes to the stone. If you look at one side of the stone, it's a different coloring than the other side of the wall. So we're still working on that from what I understand. We do have an escrow release for Provco Pineville. It's escrow release 8. It's in the amount of $39,456.04. We haven't heard from Wawa as far as any escrow release on their part. They did get the sanitary line in. They got the floor in. As you can see, they're moving quite quickly on that building as well. AutoZone, they are also moving very quickly. They have building, I think, is probably under roof at this point. It's painted. They were painting as they were putting the block up. It was a very odd situation, but it worked. The pole was painted. The signal pole was painted, and they're working on the curb. They did get a temporary sidewalk in, and they're expecting that they'll move forward with the sidewalk probably next week, depending on the weather. Willow Brook Clubhouse, I skipped Creekside Village, but I'm going to leave that. The solicitor might have more of a report for that. The Willowbrook Clubhouse, I did a follow-up inspection yesterday. We have just a couple things, issues that need to be resolved with the rain garden that was installed. I do have a release that I sent over that I'll ask for consideration next week. And I did have a conversation with them. They appear to be willing to put a fence up around the rain garden because of the access issue that we talked about. They were going to, there's a new gentleman who is in charge of new construction. So I went through those two items with Matt. Matt was going to check whether or not there's a water main in the area for the hydrant. He couldn't commit to that, but he does think the fence can get done. Duncan, we received some plans today, just some red lines for us to go through. So that there's an extension on that. We talked about the hotel. I did want to mention on the hotel that the resolution also includes a fee in lieu of open space. And the reason that is in there is because it is a hotel. It is not there was a waiver on the last land development because of the recreation use. Because this is a hotel, it's 19,000. Mark it down. I have it here.
Like,
Thank you.
It's 19 and some change.
Yeah. So I don't know if Mr. Conrad had any comment. I forwarded the resolution to Mr. Hootman, and I know he copied me on the email to Mr. Conrad. 19,466.75 was the fee in lieu. You'll act on that later on. Jake's Fireworks, I believe that I should be seeing plans probably mid next week. Matt has forwarded those. Mr. Hootman has forwarded, sorry, Matt, has forwarded those to his client for signature. And they should be coming back to us shortly. The multimodal grant, we have an invoice that was sent to OHCD. We also have an invoice for the multimodal portion of that grant in the amount of $30,058. That will be on the agenda. We've had some changes we're going to be doing some traffic calming and some other changes as far as signposts. We're actually going to put decorative signposts instead of the typical signpost. And so we have a change order in the amount of $7,329.94, which also will be on the agenda next week. The community development block grant is probably going to be announced, I would say, by the next week for the 2022 CDBG. So we'll have to gear up for that, determine what projects the board would like to see done for next year. And the Delco Greenways, the list of recommended projects for award was announced yesterday. So George does have a copy of that list if anybody's interested. The stormwater project, the Somerset grading plan, I mentioned a little earlier that Somerset is making some changes, or the Falcon Engineering, who is doing that work, it advised that they are revising the plan because of some changes that they wanted to do. So we should be seeing that plan tomorrow. Hoping that we'll have a approval for that project next week. The other stormwater projects, the maintenance group has sent out letters to Ferncroft Avenue residents so that we can get the survey work done. It's a letter to allow access for our survey crew to get that project moving. We're still waiting for the easements, I believe, for the Peach and Plum Street, and otherwise I can report general progress in the others. One more, Mill Road, that maintenance bond is coming up to expire the 25th of October, and we have a inspection scheduled so that if there's anything that needs to be completed by Gessler, we can send that to him prior to the maintenance bond expiration. That's all I have.
The Mill Road, you're talking about the Bergdahl.
Bergdahl, yes.
Project. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So any questions for our township engineer? We'll start off with Vice Chair. Joe, you have anything?
Nah, she pretty much answered my questions on Somerset.
Commissioner Whitaker, you have any questions? Commissioner Burkowski? Hold up. Yes?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Burkowski?
The Somerset plan that's coming in the near future, is it that much of a difference on what's sitting in front of us tonight? I'm just saying, I mean, is it?
They're making some changes in the grading for maintenance. And they are also changing the construction entrance and one pipe size that they are revising.
Not
Not
nothing,
significant.
right. I mean, is this going to be a start of satisfying the Somerset issue we've been having for 20 years? I think it's been.
I hope so.
I'm trying to help them out here.
I most definitely hope so.
Hopefully this satisfies.
Okay,
I think we're
Yeah.
real close. Lisa and Mike, it's just a matter of dotting our i's and crossing our t's and getting it done now. And we're gonna have to vote on if the rest of you don't let it happen.
Thank you.
Commissioner Neary?
Yes. About trying to set up a meeting, the residents that are going to be affected, rather than me going and explaining it 4 or 5 times. We set anything up.
Just only one comment. Somerset, I'm fine with helping. The only thing is when we left it, that this was not a permanent solution. It was a relief. So I think if that's the understanding, I'm okay. I think we just said that we would make that clear to the HOA. Yeah, we wouldn't be responsible.
I am handling that, and I did speak to their attorney today, Mr. President.
Okay. Just make sure the board is aware of that. All right, if there's no other questions for our engineer, we'll move on to our solicitor's report. Mr. Michael Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. President. You do have a copy of my written report in the file. The highlights of the report, excuse me, the first item would be the bond issue has been successfully completed and funded. It was a very smooth process, thanks in large part to the work of George and the staff at the township to provide all the information that was needed. I've done several of these in the past, and I have to say that this was one of the smoother ones that went through from a funding from the time of the conception of the project until the end. So again, that's something that the board should be aware of, and that their staff has done a tremendous job to get that squared away. As it relates to Somerset, as I indicated, I did speak to their attorney today. We are waiting for some costing estimates, that type of thing. Obviously, the board can't commit to a financial number until we know what the number of the project is. In the event that the board is going to fund some portion of that project, it will probably have to go out to public bid. I did make the attorney aware of that, and he does know that. That way the township would, in essence, have control over the project. I've had discussions with Ms. Catania related to inspections on the project, and we will defer to those that engineered the project, meaning Falcone. I know that Somerset does want a particular contractor, but if the board is going to make a financial commitment to that, we are constrained to the bidding process, and the attorney is well aware of that, and we're going to work through that. Commissioner Neary, I know you had asked me about Costa Homes. I do have a copy of the receipt for the certified mail of the default. Unfortunately, the only notation that is on there is that it was delivered within the COVID protocols. I have received no answer or no response. So we would now be in a position to determine what the costing factor is to complete those particular aspects of the project, go forward with that, utilize the money that's being held in escrow, and then file a surcharge action against the developer of that particular project. Let me just see what else I have here. Excuse me, we have a request for the Duncan project for an extension. That should be approved by the board this evening. I'm just looking through my notes. I was asked by Mr. Needles to look at some correspondence received related to the opioid litigation that the state brought on behalf of the municipalities. I have reviewed that, and my recommendation is this time that we would want to opt in to participate in that and hopefully share in some of the funds that may be available as a result of that litigation. There is also a pending action by representatives of the county that we are participating in, and I would expect that we would go forward with that. We had obviously we had the liquor license transfer hearing, and that matter will be pending before you on the 25th for that resolution. Other than that, all other legal matters are in order, sir.
Thank you. I'll go around the table again. Commissioner Joe Bacco, any comments?
No.
Commissioner Whitaker,
None.
Commissioner Burkowski,
Now I'm good.
and Commissioner Neary.
Mr. Pierce, I think you're involved with the property on that hole, the auto repair place that went to district court. They did not attend. Days to appeal. They haven't appealed it. So
Correct.
What is the next step? I think
Is that the Luongo business?
try not to use the name.
I understand, but that's the only way it's been referenced to me. I have been in contact with Mr. Crowley, and because we had a number of other issues going on, it is on my plate. I'm going to take care of that as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, if there's no other comments, we'll move on to our manager's report. Mr. George Needles, who has 17 items.
Good evening, everybody. I promise I'll take up tons of your time tonight. So the first item we have a resignation of part-time police officer, Mr. Vincent Recupito. You'll have a letter in your packet for next week to act on that. In addition to that, we are asking the board to consider activation of the Civil Service Commission to administer a patrolman test that for the intent to hire part-time police officers in the department, as well as the sergeant test. Tonight, you have the motion for the part-time officers, and next week will be the sergeants. Every year, we receive monies from the state for fire relief state aid that gets distributed to the relief associations with the 3 fire companies. I'm going to ask tonight that you pass the resolution allowing us to split that money up among the relief associations and disperse. We have a couple of escrow releases that have come in. They'll be on the agenda for next week. Some of them were some projects that have been outstanding for quite some time. As the solicitor mentioned, with the bond issuance going through, we have to, everything's being completed. There's still more paperwork we have to do. One of those items is reacting on our 2021 and 2022 MMOs. Through the Act 205 process, they get recalculated based off of the bond funds going into the bond. So they are considerably lower than the amounts that we initially received. The bond worked because it took away 100% of actual liability was what we were intending to do. So that was good. We also received our state pension aid, and tonight I'll have on there a resolution for the board to consider to distribute that. 1828 Peach Street is a vacant property that is requesting the board waive the fee for the vacant property registration. It is owned by a property maintenance company, and they have some more work to do before they can get it on the market. 2409 West Colonial Hazard Mitigation Application. This is a property on Colonial Drive that has flooded out numerous times pretty significantly over the years. I've been meeting with the owner and finding out a little bit more about the property and the issue there. What I've done is I've actually put in the notice of intent, which is a non-binding document to PEMA, just to start the process to determine, is this property eligible for any type of funding through the state and federal government for relief. The request of the property owner is, for the acquisition demolition grant. However, we don't know if it would even qualify for that at this time. At some point, that homeowner may come in front of you, for, requesting certain things pending what some of the results are here, but no non-binding action has been taken. 2366 Thomas Avenue, stormwater waiver request. That gentleman was here tonight to speak to you about that. So if the board so chooses, that can be on the agenda next week. I guess I will wait for an update from the conversation between Commissioner Whitaker and Lisa Catania. Commissioner Burkowski had asked me to look into Rankin Avenue. This was a road that had been in two different segments vacated over the years. Phil from Lisa's office has done some research to determine what was vacated and how it appears on titles and things like that. And I have some documentation in your packets for that. And we've also got a request from the homeowner on the right-hand side on Meeting House to do a quiet claim to essentially for them to be able to take that and get that on their deed. Yes. Yes. So they have an engineer. However, we need to get some easements together. So Southern Delaware County Authority and us have been in contact with them in reference to the easements that will be needed for the stormwater system and the sanitary system that runs back there. So that's all being worked on.
Yeah, Pike gave me a letter for him, I guess, just to be able to go on the property to do a little bit of work.
Yep.
Because the storm drain property on the left is already vacated for him. I think I know on.
There's like four different.
There's 4 different houses or 4 different properties.
Yeah, there's 4 different situations that he found. So he found some situations where it showed on the deed at one point, but it's not, it wasn't actually legally claimed. Like it looks like it's a little bit of a mess. So it's getting cleaned up as we go through this. LERTA update. I met with Mike Pierce and Steve last week to discuss the next steps on this project. We're proposing, we are going to put together a proposal for something, an incentive that we believe will be fast and quick and easy for the township to implement out the gate, which is going to give people coming in real dollar savings up front as we explore a little bit further as to how this LERTA project should work. We've completed some of the legal research. There was a high level map done of prospective areas. We have gone out and viewed some of those areas and looked at individual parcels to see if they would meet the qualifications. And we put together a financial analysis tool that allows us to run scenarios for effectively all the properties in the town or any of the properties in the town and see what the impact would be based off of various different scenarios. So that is moving along pretty well. And we'll have some information for the board real soon as to kind of like a real live action to take that can help us initiate that. In your package, you have a very, very rough Teamsters contract addendum in reference to the buyback of vacation. However, the solicitor just before the meeting emailed me a cleaned up version of that. So I'll get that out to everybody. I would ask that we get that on the agenda for next week and then get that over to them to approve through the Teamsters. We have a decent amount of equipment throughout the town that we are looking to dispose of this year through the municipal bid system. So we'll have a general list of equipment that we'd like to sell off. Putt has one lawnmower, and then we found some things in the kitchen that we could sell off, and some things that we're just trying to clean up a little bit. You also have in front of you an intergovernmental cooperative agreement from the school with the school district for a product called Bus Patrol. The school district has contacted us. They're interested in putting cameras on the school buses that would be activated every time the stop bar goes out. And in the event that someone goes through the stop bar, it would take their picture and it would issue effectively through our police department. If it happens in our jurisdiction, they would be issued a civil penalty, and we would be party to a small percentage of that civil penalty. This was reviewed by the solicitor. He did have a few comments that were relayed back to the school district. I have a call into them. I'm going to talk to them again tomorrow. But I do think that this is a good thing, and I do believe we should move forward with this. So I'll have some more information on that. Capital budget discussion. So I've been working on the budget since the last budget meeting, and we've gotten really close to being balanced. No proposed tax increase, no proposed increase to any fees, no proposed increase to the trash fee or anything. So we're looking like we're in a pretty good spot, as well as this process that we've been doing with the departments of reforecasting and really having them look at their budgets on a month-to-month basis is really helping out, and looks like we're having a pretty good year this year. So if you have some time between now and the meeting on the 25th, I'd be happy to meet with everybody, discuss kind of individually where we're at with certain things in the departments, and then proceed forward. And I know, there's been some ideas of maybe a way that we can kind of give back a little bit here. So that finance meeting will be on the 25th. Other than that, Lisa mentioned the Willowbrook item. So we have that, went over the Teamsters. The Rotary, one of the individuals from the Heart and Soul Committee has been working with the Rotary on, they've applied for like a beautification of the on-ramp to I-95 in Chichester. What they want to do there is plant a pollinator meadow. Pollinator meadow is it's effectively like a little garden that kind of grows wild, that really helps with insect population, bee population, bird population. It's really good for the environment. They're looking for a letter of recommendation from the township to apply for grant funding with this. I think this is a very positive thing. I will mention one thing that we should note, just because this is something that's been coming up quite a bit to us. So the current state of that area is it's a mowed area by PennDOT, and PennDOT does not mow a lot of their areas, but this is one that they mow, so it's not overgrown. So when they do these meadows, to the layman eye, it would appear that it's not being maintained. So what happens is they do cut the outside 12 feet, 10 feet, and then
the meadows on the contest.
yes. So while it's very good for the environment and it's a good thing, I'm going to articulate that back to them, just so that they beware that that has been something we've seen in real life as being a concern from residents, that it appears to be unkept when it's like that. So I think that we should proceed forward with giving them a letter, because it is a good project and it's good for the environment, and they're willing to take on getting in there and cleaning it up and being part of it. However, I think we should also brace for the fact that it may not have the from a visual perspective, it may not have the effect that we're looking for. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
So just to piggyback off what you were saying, did you touch on the maintenance part of it at all?
Yeah, so the meadows, the 10 feet is maintained, cut on a pretty regular basis, and then the meadow is knocked down like twice a year.
Debris, trash.
So debris and trash, so the Rotary would be adopting it, so they would be going out there and cleaning up the debris and trash in that area.
So the Rotary's on board.
The Rotary is the applicant for this.
Okay. Any questions for Council Manager?
I was going to cover the features at the moment, but
Nicole, you have any comments?
No, I don't.
George Alerta. I know I brought this to the attention of the board a while back. We got Steve on board. I just don't want to miss the places, and I understand Alerta, the understanding that it was brought to our attention with 322 Linwood Heights, Boothwood Townsend, especially Township Line Road, now that we rezoned that area to get development, to economic development into here, commercialized wise, to help with the tax base. My concern is is he also looking in not just Alerta, how can I say, just to give Alerta of a tax break, but areas that were still developing that weren't given Alerta in the past. Is he looking at other kind of incentives? One, a good example is our hotel. We still got 2 more pad sites. We've had this on our plate for 7-8 years. It was a great concept for the ball fields. Even with the owner, Mr. Conrad, trying to get a hotel in there, the restaurant. I just don't want to miss the opportunity to say, hey, we're concentrating all of these, but we still have little areas that we could still try to get developed. That I don't want to give the township away, but is he looking in any other different type of incentives for that restaurant that might be able to come in next to that hotel? They don't have far to go, that we can enjoy going to, or the office complex, or even come back and say, hey, we can't give the hotel anything, but we could maybe do something. I'm just saying, I don't want to miss the opportunities that we have development here, but isn't fully developed. And I understand out back here at Creek Parkway, that was one blanket area, and there is lots that still have not been developed. It's my understanding they're still available for LERTA because that's what we did back then. I don't have the exact numbers. I don't know what exactly they did. I just don't want to miss the opportunity to be able to grow somewhere that we had the opportunity, and some different incentive that might help them.
So basically, that's the way the project's been looked at, right? So Steve kind of looked at it and said, hey, from a LERTA perspective, there are some inherent pitfalls that you got to be careful with, and there are some benefits, right? So looking at all that and determining, is there areas of the town or is there parcels where this really makes sense, right? So that's that financial tool. We've been pulling things into it and looking at that, like so he'll say, okay, let's grab this area, let's grab this parcel over here. So from a LERTA perspective, yes, but there are other incentives at the state level, and then things that you can do at the local level. What we're going to be presenting to you between now and the end of the year is something that's very local that we can do. That's a quick hitter that would like incentivize someone to do a project because it's real dollar savings out the gate. So the thing with the LERTA is the LERTA doesn't give the developer that money out the gate, right? Like it's not a savings to their project. It's a long-term savings. So the idea is an incentive in place that is appealing enough for someone to walk in and say, wow, that makes my project make sense. Like small projects.
That's good. I mean, I'm waiting for Steve to come to present something to us. I just don't want to miss that opportunity for little spots that we might miss. So, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our commissioners report, and we'll start off with our vice chairman, Commissioner Joe Bacco.
Thank you. Most of my concerns and report were covered by the engineer, the solicitor, and George. So highway and sanitation, plugging away. I mean, doing the best they can with the help they got. We had a summer help, a ton of facilities, and why most of them more and stuff, but got through it and moving along. Saturday the 16th is the household hazardous waste event. Starts at 9 a.m. and you have to register online, and I think the last day is tomorrow. George made me aware that there's only like 3 or 4 slots left, so the information's on our website, right? All my reports are on file. If anybody has any questions, I was glad to answer.
Any questions for Commissioner Bacco from any board member? If not, we'll move on to Commissioner Nicole Whitaker.
All right, thank you. The only thing that I have this evening is I'm doing my other reports next week. I just wanted to commend the rec department, Brian and Andrew, George, and the rec board for their work in preparing and getting ready for Community Day. I heard that it was well attended, and that overall was a good day. And I'm sad that I had to miss it this year. But any other commissioners that attended, if you want to share any comments about it, that would be appreciated. But other than that, I'll give my reports next week. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe me and Commissioner Neary were present, so it was a very nice event. I brought my 5-year-old and my niece, They had a blast, and I had a blast. It was a nice time.
It started out a little slow because the game was still going on, but then it picked up and was very busy from 3 to, I had to leave a little bit early, about 5:30. But I heard the fireworks were well attended. I think people had a great time. I know a number of people were very impressed with the bounce area and that sort of thing by the top of the baseball field. So I think it was very well attended and very well appreciated.
If there's no other questions for Commissioner Whitaker, we'll move on to Commissioner Ed Burkowski's report.
Thank you. The report should be on file. I'll try to get my fire marshal in gear here for that one. The only real active one for tonight, and actually the next few months, is the Boothwyn Town Center. The task force has a meeting next Thursday night for the task force. Our third open house for the Boothwyn Town Center will be November 8th from 5 to 7:30. We'll get all this onto the web pages and everything in the Jai channels and stuff. That's going to be held this time at the Community Action Building. Mr. Coleman gets to show off what they did in their building and what they do. And then we still have all of our information that we gathered together, because we're winding down to the end of the year also for the Boothwyn Town Center and the report with Nancy and all them. So the task force is very excited. They can't wait for the 8th, but they'll get everything together on the 21st, which is next Thursday. Other than that, that is it.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Burkowski or any commissioners? All right, if not, we'll move on to Commissioner Joe Neary.
Thank you, Mr. President. The financial report is available in the office, as well. I see the tax collector report is in here, and I'm forward to that. It looks pretty. The police report, as always, is available in the office and available here. I think George already handled the announcement of the testing and the resignation of one of the officers, which is prompting the need for testing down to 3 part-time people, and in all likelihood, with some resignations coming up, 1 or 2 of them may be promoted. So I think that is about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Neary? All right, if not, we'll wrap up with my report. We'll start with planning. Just 3 comments on the application. 650 Cherry Street Road, subdivision land development. The grant, there's been a granted extension on that, correct? And then
Have they presented anything new?
I was just reading Ms. Catania's report, and the only thing that they said is they came back with a plan that showed 8 houses with a cul-de-sac, but the developer saying it's not economical feat. It's not feat. It's economically feasible for him to proceed that way.
Can't hear Lisa.
I'm sorry, Nicole, I shut my microphone off. The developer had submitted a plan to the township office. However, he realized that the plan that he submitted was an incorrect plan, and we haven't seen anything since then.
And then
I don't know how this works, but some of those lots are listed for sale on real estate websites as residential lots.
all right, well, let's look into that. Okay, thank you for that update. 2 pending applications, or two new applications that came in. 24 Creek Circle, that's right up the hill from us. That's Gear Plastic. They're doing an addition. The 90-day deadline for that is January 6, 2022. 900 Township Line Road, land development. That's the Fasano track. That's a new application also. I believe there's a warehouse that's potentially coming in. And that 90-day deadline is also January 6, 2022. For zoning, the first 2 items I believe we've covered at the last meeting. 3 Buck Lane was a variance for a deck, and that was granted. So I was happy to hear that. I don't have anything else on my agenda. If anybody has any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, let's move on to our last part of the meeting, agenda action items. If the board's okay, I will read through them and ask for a member of the board to make a motion in a second, and we can vote on them accordingly. So item number 1, have a member of a board consider a resolution authorizing the disbursement of Upper Chichester Township foreign fire insurance premium tax allotment of $87,630.52 to Boothwyn, Ogden, and Reliance Fire Company Relief Association.
So moved.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That's Resolution 2021-46.
Item number 2 on our action items. Have a member of a board consider a resolution conditionally approving the preliminary final land development plan for the Maple Zone Hotel submitted by Maple Zone Batworks LLC, located on Lot 7 on the south side of Butler Farm Lane in Upper Chichester Township. But as a motion,
Second. I got
Okay.
a question. Is it lot 7 or lot
yeah,
2?
should be Lot 2.
On the
Okay.
condo. Oh, okay.
That was my question also, Ed.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That is Resolution 2021-47.
Item number 3. Have a member of the board consider a motion accepting the extension submitted on behalf of Dipesh Patel for the 464 Conchester Highway Dunkin' Donuts land development application.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. No comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Item number 4. Have a member of the board consider a motion approving payment request number 1 from AF Damon for the 2021 road program in the amount of $407,000, 420.04.
So moved.
Second.
There's no comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Item number 5. Have a member of the board consider a motion activating the Civil Service Commission and advertise a patrol officer test for the Upper Chichester Township Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
So motion and a second. There's no comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Item number 6. Have a member of the board consider a motion approving the 2021 non-uniform defined benefit pension plan minimum municipal obligation revised for the pension bond issue in 2021 in the amount of $32,211.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Item number 7. Have a member of the board consider a motion approving the 2022 non-uniform defined benefit pension plan minimum municipal obligation revised for the pension bond issued in 2021 in the amount of $49,478.00.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. No comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Item number 8. Have a member of the board consider a motion approving the 2021 police pension plan minimum municipal obligation revised for the pension bond issued in 2021 in the amount of $276,000, $147.00.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
question.
What's the difference between 8? Oh, 22. Never mind.
Thank you. All right, if there's no other comments, motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Have a member of the board consider a motion approving the 2022 police pension plan minimum municipal obligation revised for the pension bond issued in 2021 in the amount of $420,000, 305.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Last item. Have a member of the board consider a resolution approving the distribution of the 2021 state municipal pension aid in the amount of $345,000, $404.34.
Second it.
There's no comments. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That is resolution 2021-48.
Thank the board for bearing my eloquent speeches during that time. But anyway, if there's nothing else, if there's new items, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second it.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Nicole. Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night, John Boy.